Today's guest is Nick Sambrato. Nick's the founder of Mama Sauce, a Florida-based print shop that has produced many impressive printed goods. Nick's going to tell us the story of Mama Sauce and about the challenges of running a brick-and-mortar shop. We talk about branding, community, and much more. Now let's get to know Nick of Mama Sauce. So Nick, I'm going to ask you what I ask everyone. Pencil or pixel?
All right. I was anticipating this, but I didn't prepare an answer. Oh, man. I'm going pencil. And I'm going pencil. Yeah, I'm flat out going pencil, man.
Cool. Why pencil?
Well, I mean, my world is... It's funny. I try so hard to create any of my creative briefs or my notes or anything digitally and put them into, in the cloud or in Google Docs here or there.
Mm-hmm.
Making some opportunity, like the way I take notes in meetings, everything, making digital versions so I can click into it. But I always rebel against it. My world is run by Post-its, like just Post-its everywhere. And I mean, the amount of notepads and note paper that I've got stacks of notepads, stacks of notebooks.
Oh, dude, I got to send you some field notes.
Oh, yeah. Send me some field notes, brother. I will fill them up. It always ends up with a pencil. It always ends like if I'm out and about, and I like to keep light on my pockets. I always have a backpack and I have a notebook in there. But if I'm not doing my nap, I'm always thinking. And I always actually, if I'm having an interesting conversation with somebody, I'll usually, the first time I feel like I'm being rude in doing this, I stop and say, listen, if you see me starting to pick up my phone and type, it's because this conversation is so inspiring or great, or it's giving me. I'm sending myself notes, pixel. But what I do every morning when I come back, I take those notes and I write them down with my pencil, and they don't live digitally. They live in my notebook.
That's right, man.
I always transcribe them into I've notebooks full of them, and there's just something about it. I have to write it. I sketch a lot. I sketch a ton in notes. Half my notes are sketches and ideas and drawings or Venn diagrams it's. I haven't found the pixel-based app that captures just what I want to do or
Not
how
something that you're interested in yet. There are iPad apps and all that stuff, but not something that really catches your attention.
I've got a ton of them. Yeah. I can't. I don't know. It just hasn't clicked for me yet. It's like, I don't know. I like paper. I like pens. I like pencils. I really love this pen. I just love the Zebra G301 gel version, not the non-gel. I just love it. I love the way it writes. Every time I write with it, I enjoy the way it feels, and I enjoy watching the line weights come out. I like when I'm sketching, I like doing the little cross hatching with it, and I don't know. I'm definitely a pencil guy.
Dude, I love it, man. So tell us about what you have done, what you were doing before you started Mama Sauce, before you started these your current endeavors.
I occupy two positions broadly that have many different tasks underneath them. CEO of Mama Sauce, which is CEO is just a bigger word than what it really is. I founded and own Mama Sauce. CEO is just fancy talk, but whatever it is I do at Mama Sauce. And then
which is probably wearing a lot of hats, right? I mean, you probably do a ton of stuff.
I do a ton of stuff, yeah, but it's all in the nights and weekends because I probably put in 40 or 50 hours a week for fiction as well, and I do business development here. I work alongside of the owner, helping with the brand, the messaging, the marketing. I work with teams here. I generate the opportunity, help position ourselves, create opportunity, close deals, all the other awesome. But this company is so great. I have 2 full-time jobs, and I love them both. So, for last year, Mama Sauce, I wasn't full-time, I don't think. I probably worked more like, 15 hours a week last year on Mama Sauce and 40, 50 here. This year, since January, I've definitely been 40, 50 hours each job a week.
Mama Sauce alone?
But 40, 50 each job.
Wow.
Yeah, so 80, 100 hours a week this year, which has been just gnarly, man. But it's awesome. We have great teams at both spots, but I'm just a workaholic. So you asked what I was doing before. Mama Sauce
Yes.
Fiction are very interesting. And I think everything I've done is everything we all everything kind of builds into the next. If you're progressing and you're turning the chapters, you never uh, there's nothing that's a tangent. I guess in my path. So um, I'll cut it short. I think I started my first business when I was 13. Like, it wasn't a legal business, but I started accepting payments, for a bulletin board system that I wrote and ran and had two modems and like pre like, internet.
So you were
But
really
like,
into computers even back then, even
oh,
as a kid,
yeah, yeah, seventh and eighth,
running
sixth,
a
seventh.
BBS system.
Yep. Yeah. I lived in my bedroom, like outside of school. I was smelly little, just like building computers and writing bulletin boards and ASCII and batch file based like programs and yeah. So that and then I started an online toy store my freshman year of college. That was awesome. That like bought my car, put me through pay for everything I need to pay for school on my end. And then I went away to school and kind of left all that stuff. Studied communication, started editing, and then when I went to grad school, I was editing a lot. I worked at the Apple Store, and I edited video projects, paid video projects, and then somehow along the way, I met a guy who became an amazing friend that wanted to start a record label and had a great band. He wanted to build around it. I said, I'll do that with you. And so we started a record label. That was right as I was in grad school, so 2004, yeah. And then we started a record label, did really well with it, man. We got funding and distribution through Universal. We upstreamed one of our artists to Motown, sold them. And then, that was, I thought, a pretty big success for me. I felt good about it. And so I sold my half of the label out. But somewhere along those lines in that time, I was managing, I started managing bands outside of that. So I managed a band called Band Marino and a few others. But Band Marino was fronted by Nathan Bond, who owns Rifle Paper, with Anna Bond. And Anna used to do our posters and our, album art and stuff like that. So along the way, and Nathan's a milestone, honestly, in my life. Nathan, when I was managing them, he needed some tour posters. He noticed that the tour they were on wasn't postered well enough, so he asked me to get more posters as the manager. So I started dealing with a vendor on that, and the vendor we normally used, website was not functional. So I kept calling him and calling him, like, hey, I need to get this stuff. And this is finally they picked up my call. I was like, hey, Nick, hey, listen, man, we're just shutting this down. We're over it. We're done with it. It was called PCX Media. It was just an online web store that sold just posters and handbills for indie bands. But I asked them a few questions, and they had a client base. They had a couple of thousand clients. They didn't get over the hump. They just didn't feel like it was grow where they wanted to grow. They were past it. So I was like, I tell you what, man, I'll take it off your hands. I've got a couple grand or whatever. I'll buy your website. And they're like, all right, cool. So I drove up this 7-8 hours, whatever it is, to Panama City. Spent the one night there. They taught me everything I needed to know. I filled up my Mini Cooper with all the equipment I could fit in it that they owned. Drove back to Orlando, put it in my sunroom, hired Joey part-time, who was the lead singer of another band I managed. Said, you want to work 10 hours a week, maybe just printing people stuff? And instantly it was really a full-time job. We turned the website back on and orders started coming in. And not long after that, now I bought that and it seemed reasonable for our artists on the label, artists I managed, and other people. It seemed like a good synergy. And then not long after that, I sold my half of the record label, so I still had the print shop. And I never took an interest to it until then. And then I looked at the print shop and I was like, well, if I've got nothing to do now. I just sold, my half of this business. I'll make this my business. Let's do something. So we met a guy named Austin Petito that became our brand manager. That was a screen printer that taught me about printing posters. He was an Italian guy. Joey, who was I mentioned before with Mama Sauce, was an Italian guy. I'm an Italian guy. We learned screen printing while eating frozen food that my mom would make, and every 6 months would fill my freezer with Italian food, frozen. And so for 2 weeks we learned screen printing, and then Austin left, and we were eating Italian food and all kind of living together basically, and it was real sentimental. And then I was just like, I know what we're doing, man. We're building Mama Sauce. That's what we're gonna call this, and that's where it came from. And so Mama Sauce eventually added on letterpress. And then so we had full color from before, screen printing, which he had, and then later added letterpress, and then eventually we got rid of full color. And full color was by far the most mature of the processes, but it was more than 2/3 of our business, and we lopped it off. And just to focus on the things that we really loved and what was in line with our brand, and because that was printing, not clicking a button to us, and it really all took off from there. So taking off from there, actually another milestone. Joey, who still is at Mama Sauce and is the general manager, we have 16 people that are full and part-time combined, and Joey runs the shop day to day, and he's been there since day one, and it's awesome. And we never would have grown to that point if we didn't hit the other milestone that I'd love to touch on, which is what brings me to fiction. You know, when eventually I said we added letterpress, and that was a result of I was on tour with Ban Marino, and Joey calls me and he's like, "Hey Nick, our paper cutter broke." Our paper cutter was a tabletop, just paper cutter. This is before we had letterpress, right? I was in Atlanta. I was with Ban Marino. We just loaded in at, you know, wherever it was, the Masquerade, I don't know. And so I got on Craigslist. I'm like, I'm in a big city. I'll find a paper cutter. So I got online, print shop closing, 2 MARTA stops down, which is their public transportation in Atlanta. I was like, guys, I got it. But we're loaded in. I'm going to take off. Went down. There's like an 87-year-old guy that was retiring, shutting down his shop. And I was like, he had a real paper cutter from like the 60s, but it was real. It wasn't a tabletop one. I was like, I'll have that. And I was like, what is that though? And that what it was like the most beautiful contraption I've ever seen up there running and moving with all these rods. And if you do B-roll, you can cut to this video right now because it's amazing. It sounds like a train. And he's like, well, that's a letterpress.
I'm gonna make a GIF out of that.
Yes. I was like, well, I'll have that too. And so I went back to guys like, guys, I'm leaving the tour. I was tour managing, so it's not like, you know.
So you were still the manager at that point.
Yeah. And so I'm leaving. I've got to go back and get this equipment back. So I come rolling into our office on Fairbanks at the time. We had just become Mama Sauce, rifles next door. We had screen printing only. And I roll up, I open up the door. It's like, ta-da! And the guy's like, what is that? I'm like, that's a letterpress. And so word got around town that we had a letterpress. And Chase, who owns Fiction, is like, he's like, man, I would love to film a job. And so his brother Chris, the reason he knew that is because his brother Chris hired me to do my very first job, which was Chris's business cards. And so Chase is like, I'd love to film it. And so I was like, all right. And so here I am. I made 2 poor decisions, but being an entrepreneur, I'm just an optimist, right? 1, I can print this job and I'll do this for you and I'll charge you money to print this job. 2, I will let you film this. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'll let you film it, you know, and put it online. And Chase is amazing video maker, like director. He's a very amazing director. And at the time, so you had like, this is, you know, people getting interested in artisan work. This machine is beautiful. Vimeo is just starting to really take off. And then you had the DSLRs. So we're creating this big access where they all can like create this moment. DSLRs, everyone was wondering what people were doing on DSLRs, and Chase wanted to like see what it did. And so he came in and filmed this DSLR video, put it on Vimeo, put some music to it, put it online, and our friendship was forged over that. And the moments I remember vividly, like sitting in my room, we're texting back and forth. It just got picked up by this blog. The place just went to here. Vimeo just made it a staff pick, you know. And so my first job, I had no idea what I was doing. Got filmed. The machine is so beautiful to watch work. The video, and Chase is so great at what he does. The video just went apeshit, and we just never stopped getting called. The video just created, it instantly propelled us into a stratosphere where people were like, oh wow, these guys are leaders in letterpress, aren't they? Or they know what they're doing. That machine knows what it's doing, so they know what they're doing. And entered the years of trying to figure out how the hell to do what we do really, really well, and how the hell to retain the hype or whatever we got from that. So that was a Fiction production, and that was a huge milestone in our career, or in our journey, a huge milestone in my career, and led to my career now, because we got to a point with Mama Sauce where, you know, there was a really hard period after that, those hard years of figuring stuff out. I lived in my shop. I sacrificed a lot of stuff. I worked more hours than I work now. I gained about 40 pounds of just unhealthiness, began smoking. I was just stressed, like, how do we do this, you know? And when we kind of got over the hill a little bit, I was just so burnt out. I was just like, I just need to get away, you know? And just from the day to day a little bit. And so I had replaced myself in enough capacities. I was no longer the printer. I was no longer this, the that, the other. I just started officing here at Fiction. And eventually it was just really like, I believe in what they do. I believe in what you do. And there's only, if I boil down what I was doing here at Fiction, I was hanging out at Fiction doing my job for Mama Sauce, which is just keeping the hype machine going, keeping the social communication going, just kind of, you know, business development. And I was here and I was just like, you guys could use someone like me and I believe in this. So it was, my job is now to really just kind of rep something that really changed my life, you know? That's one half of my job, and the other half is still executing on that other part of my life, which is Mama Sauce. So, you know, my whole journey beginning with online bulletin board systems and sales to an online toy store to, I mean, the other thing is the reason our record label did so well is because we did really well online. You know, my master's degree is in online communication. So everything I did really had to do with mass communication and the internet. And that's the one maybe cohesive string through the whole thing. But I'm really, really happy that there's a tactile element to what I do as well. You know, like I don't print anymore, but man, I really love printing. I love the machines. And the second I have
now
what's that?
What are the things that you're doing now at the company at Mama Sauce?
Oh, okay. So, at the moment, I just wrapped what was my major night job for the last year, which was writing our quoting software. Which, you know, what we do is
you wrote it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've got 3,000 hours into it over the last 14 months.
Wow.
So it roughly equates to about 40 hours a week, 50 work weeks, you know, over the last year in my spare time, weekends and nights. And
did this start as a side project?
Started as a necessity.
As a necessity.
Honestly, it was a necessity, and it became. I mean, I don't do anything really, kind of just a little bit, you know. So there is no off-the-shelf quoting solution for a studio that handles letterpress, silkscreen, and foil only. You can find some off-the-shelf solutions for digital or offset. There's some off-the-shelf solutions for silkscreen, for shirts. But flat stock paper, foil, letterpress, silkscreen, like there's no solution. And then you add in edge painting and die cutting and everything else, and it just became a passion project. So wow. I dusted off the old programming skills from 7th and 8th grade. And,
that's so awesome.
And embarked on this journey, and we've been beta testing it for months. And today we actually delivered the 1.0 version to the sales staff. They've had the beta version and been working with it for a while. A lot of bugs, but me and Joey, the sales manager, have been really digging in the last couple of days, and just he's been really shredding on it. And over lunch break, you know, like on my lunches, like I'm either doing business development for Fiction and meeting with people, or I'm meeting with my managers at Mama Sauce. And today I met with Joey at my lunch, and we hashed through the last couple of things. And then at 5:30 today, he came back to the office, and we spent another hour, and we're like, we did it. 1.0 is done. Send it. You know,
dude, and congrats.
Well, thank you so much, man. Yeah, it's going to be the heart of what we do. You know, it does all the estimating. What we do is so customer based. So our sales staff, God bless them, their time is spent just loving on designs and interacting with designers. And we're so fortunate to have so many great designers that these poor guys are bombarded with just a lot of talking with designers about how to bring and both our sales guys are just amazing because they're designers, they have design backgrounds, and they both, you know, had a background in production with us. Both started as interns and worked their way through the shop. But the last thing I wanted them to do was have to, you know, crunch numbers. The last thing I wanted to do was crunch numbers. And honestly, a typical setup is you have an estimator. You have customer facing, you know, the person who deals with the stuff, and then you have an estimator. And we just don't have the margins to have any fat in the company at all. We run really, really lean right now, and I hope hopefully that changes. So the quoting part, the number part is minutes, right? Which is awesome, and no other human. These guys could do it themselves. But the customer facing part, that would never change. Like we just like everything we do is so every job we do is so unique and custom that it's always a conversation. It's a conversation, and our guys they're there to converse with you, and it's cool. It's really cool, but it's also like closing a job can sometimes be a month because you might be talking about how to bring it to life for a long time, or educating people. A lot of what they do is educate people, because what we do, our processes are a bit arcane, or a bit removed from some people. And some people aspire to design for it, but when they get there, they're like, wait, I've never done anything for spot color or requires separations, or I might be a digital artist solely. So there's a lot of education that goes into it. So the things that the banner which we live under, we educate, we inspire, we collaborate. That's what we do. We hope to inspire people with not just our production, but really the inspiration really comes from the designers that we work for and with and help bring their art to life. That's where it is. If we didn't have great clientele with great designs, we would never inspire people. Our machines are inspiring looking, but there's only so long so many people can watch a machine do this. I can watch it forever, but we inspire and then educate, because what we do, I hope, is not a dying art, but it was all but dead for years, but it's certainly revitalized, and it does take some education to help create perpetuity, and education actually can be inspiring as well, and then collaborate, which is what I was talking about with the customer facing. Our designer, our sales, they're not even salesmen. We don't sell. We collaborate.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of challenges do you go through running these companies, or being a part of? Well, yeah, running the company. So, as you mentioned, you're obviously you run Mama Sauce, but then you also help with. Let's see if I understand this correctly. You do help with fiction, or are you co-founder?
I'm on staff at Fiction. Oh yeah, no. So I'm the vice president here at Fiction.
Okay, vice president.
Yeah, so I'm on staff. I'm the vice president here. I'm involved in my title is Vice President of Business Development, but I'm involved in everything from HR to day-to-day to brand to all this to I've got my fingers in mostly everything except for production. Like I may have had a background in editing, which lends me to understanding some of this stuff. But man, the last camera I owned was like the big deal was that it was like a 3 CCD. It was still SD. So like I'm antiquated. But these guys are like cutting edge. So production stuff I have to understand to be able to sell it and talk shop. But on set, that's the only place I'm not involved. On set, I just don't get in. I don't. But besides that, I'm really here to help execute on Chase's vision for Fiction and grow it into a brand. And I think that's where we're going with Mama Sauce, and I think that's where we're going with Fiction. We're creating brands with a service. At the heart of them. So growing out of a service to a brand. Both companies right now, we're developing products, we're developing branded items, like all kinds of different stuff. And it's super exciting. Like, the second I realized we had a brand with Mama Sauce, it was just like, whoa, like what print shop has fans? Like that's so awesome. I'm so stoked. But I guess like, that's what we've been building. I never was thinking like we're building a brand, but but we have been, because it's always all been about like what's the best thing we can do, what's the best we can be, what's the absolute worst way we can kill ourselves to make our customers or clients like happy, and what's the best we can look, and what cool stuff can we put into the universe. And so the day that I realized, I was like, oh man, we got a brand here. Like it's a print shop with tens of thousands of people who follow us. That's a print shop, man. Like that's crazy.
It's really the first print shop that I've ever heard, being in that position.
Yeah, I mean, and it's yeah. I mean, there's others out there. I think I'm a fan of a few. I
That's
won't
true.
put their names out there into the universe. But the same thing with fiction now. It's like it's a production company where we have people following us and in conversations with us, and just like what we do because we do creative things. And yeah, I don't know. So that I think that's I don't know if I don't think you asked where we're going. You asked what I do here, and so that just naturally turned into what I'm concerned with right now, right? Which is
Yeah.
on both companies turning the corner into being brands, or capitalizing on the brand equity we created to make brands, out of what we do, but never lose sight of our core services and our core competencies and what it is that makes us who we are and what we love. So everything that will be not everything, but I think the core of our products and brand at Mama Sauce will always be there will always be at least quite a bit represented by our core competencies. Like it's always going to have a spot color feel, probably. It's always a good amount of what we do is going to be letterpress and screen printed, and same with fiction. Like it's all going to be creative and design based and friendly and video products and content. So I don't know. You got to once you have your skill set, how do you diversify on it? Well, that's your core competency. You can never abandon it. So I don't know. It's weird. When I think back and when I think into the future, like I don't want to never have service clients for Mama Sauce or fiction, but it'd be really awesome to be at a point where like my consultants aren't like just killing themselves to keep up with custom design all the time, but more we can get to the point where it's like we can start pushing up everything else we do. So the service of what we do, the service-based stuff, can become a little more, I don't want, not expensive, but to justify making it a little more expensive, where it's like we can do less and less of it because we're selling more of our own brand. Like if you're going to go to Shepherd Ferry to get something designed, like you're going to pay a lot of money to get something designed because
Something custom designed,
something custom designed,
not something
exactly.
that he's already produced, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's already designing for the stuff they're producing. So to take away from that, and that's a fun model. That's cool, and but and I look up to him obviously as a screen printer, but also as a business. I got to tour his facility. I got to interview him last year for a project that we did for fiction with the space station, which was
That's
incredible.
awesome.
Yeah, and just being like, like he still has production, he still has designs, he still has a designer, but he's producing his own stuff, and but he's still like he's not letting go of keeping the door open to have a service to people. He's still excited. You can hire him to do stuff as a service, and but everything else is to the point where it's like he's it's services in everything that he does, and I always that's inspired me. I want to have an element of service, but I don't want service to be all that we do. And right now, still at this moment, service is all we do, and it's not that I don't love it. I do. I love it. I love our client base, man. I just want to maybe build more things around so we could justify having a bigger team, to service more people without it feeling like just like not a burden, but like everything we do to keep up with it,
Well, then also
'Cause
not
the
to feel like
service-
a giant, also not to feel like a giant company that you almost don't have control of, right? I mean, because sometimes things tend to get out of hand or it seems like not in all cases, but in some cases, companies or something. There was an idea that started and then it grows and it sort of just becomes this not so interesting giant monster kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to get to that point.
No, I
You want to
definitely.
keep it tightly knit, close, and produce a nice balance, I guess you could say, a nice balance of client services and products or your brand.
Yeah.
Cool. What major challenges do you come across?
Yeah, I'll step back for a second and say, like, the fact that everything that we do is so custom, like I've been like talking about, and standardizing steps, standardizing anything in what we do is just a massive challenge, and that's been a big part of the reason to create our quoting software ourselves, a quote machine, and pushing to create standardization of everything that we do. and like, standard plating. Right now, like, we have like 200 and something different standard plating, like the way we lay out, you know, all of these different things. They're all named and have a Dewey Decimal System to them, creating a standardized approach to custom work, and systemizing it. That's been just like the most massive challenges, like standardizing and systemizing. And then, learning our craft, like I said, was also a really big challenge. But I think we're there. That we've overcome. Now we're in the middle to maybe on the other side, and hopefully into the home stretch of standardization. And then we are in the early. I mean, we should be way further ahead in systemization, but that's on me, But now we're getting into the idea of really systemizing. We have systems, but I mean like really good systems. Strong systems that are robust, that can handle really wide bandwidth. Our systems right now, I don't think can handle the bandwidth that could be demanded of us at times, and that becomes really stressful. So I guess. I'm going to use just one of those terrible business words, which both those things add up to being scalable. Figuring out how to create scalability is a challenge for any business. It could be a one-person design team. It could be a three-person design team. It could be an agency that's mid-sized or small, just to scale. Because you'll always, if you're doing something well, you're going to receive opportunities that are like the things you want to get, that you couldn't afford to be built for before, but these are things that can change your life. So how do you build yourself to be able to respond and create that bandwidth instantly, and then be scalable enough to come back down if you have to, right? Like, like we have this opportunity, we can do it. And then we come back to our core. Like, being scalable is like one of the major challenges. That, and then I mean, really, that's it. Systems and scalability, like, because those are linked to so many different things. Like, I think there's a lot of things that are symptoms of that. I could say like profitability is really hard. Well, like if you have good systems and you're scalable and you can respond to do things well and smoothly, like, then you can build profitability. HR is really hard. Well, HR can be really hard when you're not treating people the way they need to be treated. Every time an HR issue comes up, you have to ask yourself, where did I go wrong? What did I let people down in? What's broken in the system? That's just not just HR, but when you're not being profitable, you ask the same questions. When you have an error on press or in a job, they all have the same question. You have to go back and say, what's the genesis of this? What, and is it systemic? So systems, like everything else I think is a symptom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What separates successful businesses with failing businesses?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if you take financials off the table, because honestly, I don't. And this is, I think this has been to my detriment. I've never gauged, and I mean this in the least cliche way possible, I've never gauged Mama Sauce's success by financials. And if I did, it'd be a completely different company. We'd actually be financially successful. We just, we get by. We get by. But in some of the other areas that I would gauge success in, I'd say we're successful in some and still not quite successful in the others. But, I'm trying to make being financially successful a bigger priority to me. And I think that's just on the other side. I think we sacrifice a lot of that in the effort to build what I said earlier, unknowingly building a brand. We kept just by pouring back into the company to build it and build the brand. But I think having a company that can healthily, in a healthy way, respond to opportunities and scale and grow and scale back down to when it's necessary to say yes. I think that's one of the metrics to be able to say when we decide to say yes to something, that means we can do it, and we can do it well, and it doesn't damage us. On the other side of that, to have the foresight to be able to say we understand what it is to say no to things because we know they will damage us and we're not ready to do it. I'm not great at that one. Um, to have a place that inspires people both outside and in. Like I feel that we inspire a lot of people outside of our doors, and ascribe to our brand. And I think we're successful with that. And and for somehow, I mean, I'm so fortunate. Like our the people that work for us and with us seem to be inspired to stick around because it's a hard environment to work in, and they give a lot. And I think there's a fine line there too, and maybe it's not as fine as I think. Maybe it's maybe there's pretty obvious line between like inspiring people and getting by on that alone, and then actually really delivering on something that is wholly beneficial to them in their work environment. Now, a job's a job, and I believe that people are like, they should sign up and work for something if they say they're going to work for it, and say this is my job and check out when they check out. But for some reason, it's not exactly what it's like for us. Our people like a lot of them, the job is more than the job. There's a big part of what they, it's a big part of I don't know. I wouldn't say their identities per se, but maybe, I don't know, but enough to all I'm trying to say is they give more than they signed up for. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure where that line is, because I don't know if that means you're being successful or not. You're being successful by getting people to really believe and give their all. But I think successful is doing great with that and giving back and making it go full circle. And that's what we're desperately trying to do. To live up to what people believe in, both outside our doors and inside. So by those definitions, as ambiguous as they may come out, I don't know if they're sharp or not. I don't know if we're successful yet.
Huh.
Like I'll be the first to admit that I'm a fairly transparent guy. We're successful in a few of the metrics that I think, that I would gauge a company being successful by, maybe one or two. And if there was, 5 or 6, that I list, I think we got 1 or 2 of them down. And a great, you said, that's the mark of a great leader about something else earlier.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think the mark of a great leader is, I don't know, maybe being able to deliver on all, like for me, deliver on all those. So I don't feel quite there yet either.
But the good thing is that you see where what in your opinion what you're lacking in, right? What
Blaringly obvious.
What's that?
It says blaringly obvious, but I'm willing to admit it.
That's the thing, I love that, because you're telling me that you're willing to admit, what you're good at and where you're working on. But that's also, in my opinion, and I'm just talking in my opinion, that's also the sign of you heading the right direction. Whether you think you're successful or not. Again, from an outside perspective, I definitely see the company as very successful, because you've already developed a brand. In my opinion, that's just you're going the right direction, definitely.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and that's the best. I'd be willing with that. I think we're going in the right direction. I think we're heading towards success. My ambitions for the company are great, and I think we're heading towards really cool stuff. Yeah, I do, and yeah, it's cool.
What keeps you motivated, Nick?
I'm really competitive. I'm very, very competitive. That's certainly part of it.
Did you play sports by any chance?
Yeah. I play a lot of basketball.
No, but growing up, did you play sports?
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Did I? You know what? I didn't play many team sports. I played baseball. Like any good kid would play little league. I got kicked out of football in high school after not very long. But I ran cross country and track, but Yeah, I guess those are competitive. They're not team sports, but yeah, I ran cross country and track all through high school. But to fully answer your question, I think I have a drive to do something great, and so competitive is almost not even the right word, because it's not to be the best. My drive isn't to be the best. I don't think there's definitely areas where you can define what is the best, and we're we're in one of those areas where you can never really do that. But I think there's room for everyone if we all just are driven by being great. And so I don't know. That's the best I can boil it down. Like I want everything that we do or I do to just be the best it possibly can be. And I guess I'm motivated by that. In the hardest times, I'm really motivated by the idea that we have people that believe in what we do. That's one of the things that really motivates me when things are really hard, or when you're in the, hour 80, and it's, Saturday night or Sunday morning on a week, and then like the idea that, there are people that count on you, and there are people that are beside you and believe in you. There's people that are working as well, and that are like, that keeps me really motivated as well.
Do you have as a business person, creative business person, what do you go to any books, any books that you might recommend to any aspiring creative folks that would like to, start a business, they have an idea, or just something in general that really gets you going, maybe even something motivational?
Yeah. Let me look at the last two books I read. I'll look right now. Right now, I am reading Bill Bryson's The Short History of Nearly Everything, which is pretty awesome.
Is
that's
that
everything. It's literally it starts with the Big Bang and goes all the way through everything. It's
sweet.
Yeah. So I'm reading that right now. I'm reading a book called Brain on Fire, which is just about this reporter that had a crazy month stint of going insane. Before that, I read a book called Age of Wonder, which is about the 17th century, early 18th century scientific renaissance. Yeah, but I don't know. Before that, what else did I read? I love Malcolm Gladwell books. I mean, they're just find them interesting. I guess those kind of things. I listen to a lot of TED Talks, tons of TED Talks. So yeah, I do all that stuff. I run a lot, so I listen to mostly books. So I probably. Oh, it really is. And then so. I wake up in the morning when I'm getting ready. I listen to a book or podcast, and then after work, I'll listen to a book or podcast for about an hour and a half while I'm running and working out. And if I'm cleaning the house on the weekend, so I probably spend quite a bit of time listening and reading to books, but nothing in the business realm at all. Mostly what people recommend me. I don't have a thing I'm into. It's just I'll gravitate towards something. Right now, I'm just way into the sciences. My neighbor is a PharmD. He's a pharmacologist, Dr. Ding, and he was a geneticist as well. So we just talk about that stuff, and that's what I love to listen to right now, and read. Yeah.
Oh, I love it, man. That's great, man. That's some great stuff. You've given a lot of good ones right there. All right, so Nick, if there is one piece of advice, if there's one thing that you would tell an aspiring business owner, someone that jump into business, beginner business, what would it be?
Well, first of all, tenacity is an absolute must, regardless of how you're equipped. But how you're equipped is really key. And if you could do it well, I'd say how you're being equipped well would be having a solid, vision, a solid business plan, and a great idea of everything, knowing everything, knowing how a business works from the inside out, everything from projections to operating costs to, you got to be good in spreadsheets and everything else. And then having that understanding come to the table and be prepared with funding. Now, this is where tenacity comes in at the other side, because, like you don't always know all that stuff. And you can't always get funding. So don't be dissuaded by the fact that you may not know that or have it, because you could build it along the way. And Mama Sauce was started with $5,000. No idea of spreadsheets, no idea of operations or business, proper business running. Even though I'd never had a proper business with this many employees. It can all be done with tenacity, you know. But that being said, if you can know it or have a partner that can do it, and there could be money brought to the table, there's an exchange there. So yeah, I don't know, like, it's those two worlds. You either come to the table with the knowledge and the money, or you don't. Either way, tenacity is key. And if there's an opportunity to have a partner that fills in where you lack in understanding, expertise, and helps you fill in your vision, it's better to own some of something than all of it.
I love it, man.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. What exciting things are coming out with Mama Sauce? I know you guys have something brewing right now. You mentioned a lot about branding. You know, fiction also. You're working a lot with fiction. What if you could tell us what kind of things you guys are working on?
Yeah, well, fiction, we're working on we're working on amazing video production stuff right now. Like, we just wrapped a project with the Jordan brand, which was really cool. With Jordan brand Nike. We got some stuff coming out with the space station, which will be really cool. But as far as our products, fiction's going to be having some really awesome new product line stuff. If you've seen our stuff before, we're well into swag, and we're way into like doing gift box and giveaways, and like we just did these branded skateboards and giveaway around that. And we have some really stepping up that game with fiction really hard right now, which is gonna be awesome. All right, now on Mama Sauce side, our new website's gonna launch very soon. It's ready to go, but it's waiting on a few content things right now. But also, I might push it back a little bit because I met with someone today about some more product line stuff. So I want to open up the doors there with some more product stuff. Real, stuff that's in our wheelhouse. Nothing, too crazy to begin with. Shirts, cards, posters, open edition posters, a bunch of cool stuff. So we're gonna have a product line that maybe 15, 20 SKUs to begin with. But all of that is kind of like it's really awesome. It's a great start. But come this fall, we're going to be launching something I'm super excited about, which is a cookbook. So Mama Sauce is going to be doing, I collect art books, handmade, like letterpress art, like limited edition books. And we're going to be doing one of those. And so when I move,
dude, so when we move away, I'm super stoked about that. So what kind of recipes are these? Like anything or?
No, it's special, man. It's when I moved away for college, my mom, like being an Italian mom, she wrote down all of her recipes for me, and I've had them now for however long it's been, 15, 16, 17 years. And she doesn't, she won't, I've told her I'm going to do something like this, but she won't get it until she sees it, But we're doing a limited edition. I haven't decided on the edition yet, but I couldn't see it being as high as 500. My guess is going to be a 250 edition book. We're in the design phase right now. Everything's being illustrated, and I'm writing a copy, actually, on the weekend some. And it's going to be an heirloom, handmade, limited edition letterpress book. Hand bound with a clutch, and it is it's going to be beautiful. It's just going to be beautiful. It's just going to be called Mama Sauce, and it's going to be our first publication, and I'm very excited about it. It's just all the recipes, the simple Italian peasant meal recipes that I was raised on, that my mom wanted me to have when I left, and I always cherish the one she hand wrote for me. But I thought it'd be really great to put it into the universe in a way that's special or immortalizes it, and I hope to make it something that we do more often, because I think there probably are some other great people out there. Well, not other. I'm not a great person, but there are other people out there who are great, far greater than me, that maybe feel the same way and have the same kind of story. That maybe we can publish this every year for somebody else. So that's part of the long-term vision of it, but this is where it begins with my mom's recipes, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I could imagine, how awesome that's going to be. That's, wow. Very cool, man. Very cool. Where can people reach out to you? Where can we find you online?
You can find me at nicksambrato.com on the Twitters and Instagrams. At Nick Sambrato on Twitters and Instagrams. You can find me at nicksambrato.com, mamas-sauce.com, mamas-sauce.com, or fctn.tv, that's fiction without any vowels, .tv, at fctn_life, at Mama Sauce. There's a million ways to find us all today, but if you search for Mama Sauce or fiction, fiction's a hard. You search for fiction, you get a lot of stuff. Fiction.tv, fctn.tv. There's a million ways to find us. Yeah, those are all the spots.
And everyone, you'll be able to find everything we talked about today on pencilvspixel.com/Nick Sambrato. So that's pencilvspixel.com/Nick Sambrato. Thanks so much for being here, Nick.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.